You're going to take your tool and you're going to fold it in half and put it on your sewing machine. You're going to have a 1-inch seam allowance from the folded edge, and you're just going to sew to make your waistband. When you start sewing, you want to back stitch. That makes a knot in it, and your string won't come out. As you sew, you want to keep the folded edges even, which can be a little difficult with tulle. So I'm going to start sewing now, and we'll see you at the finish. Once you get to the end, you're also going to backstitch. And now you are done with the waistband. Remove it from your machine, cut the threads, and are ready to go on to our next step. We're going to move on to doing the flower petals. I am starting with purple on the bottom. There will be 7 rows. So what you're going to do, I want to make sure the top row lines up with the outside edge of the tulle so that it doesn't look unfinished. So I'm starting the purple in a little bit so that when I do the blue, it can start at the edge and will alternate. Slide it into the machine. You want it pretty close to the edge. This tutu is not very big, so there's not a lot of room to spread things out. I have my box of flower petals ready to go. I've also sorted most of the other colors. So let's get started. And you also want to make sure that your flaps are open. Here's the waistband at the top. Open your flap so the waistband is in the middle, so that you're only sewing the flower petals onto one flap. My camera is very blurry, but if you can see, the needle right there is on the very edge of the flower petal. That is when you put your next flower petal on, so that they're not overlapping too much and they have a nice even spacing. And you want to continue doing this all the way down to the end. This is a very time-consuming process. There are a lot of flower petals that need to be sewn on, and even more so since we're doing 7 individual rows. When you get to the last petal, you also want to backstitch again. Sew it, backstitch it, and you're done with the first row. You remove it from the machine, cut the threads, and then you're going to pull it all the way back and start on the same side that you started on the first time. So I have all my blue petals already separated, just like the purple ones, and I'm going to start putting them on. With the blue petals, since you started the purple away from the edge of the tulle, you're going to start the first blue one on the edge. And a little bit higher up. Maybe about 1/2 inch above the other petals. And then you just start sewing again. You might have to change your bobbin out soon if you did not start with a full bobbin. It does take a lot of thread. So if you have to do that, go ahead and do it. And then just keep on going. And you do that all the way to the end, and then you do it with the next color and the next color and the next color until you're done. And I will be back after that. Once you're done sewing on the flower petals, they should look like this. You could stop at 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, doesn't matter. I'm doing the rainbow, so I did all 7. So what you're going to do now is have a huge heaping pile of tulle with flower petals. I have a 14-inch waistband, and this is a 6 to 12 month, 0 to 12 month. They stretch pretty good. You take your safety pin, and you're going to want to poke it through. You take your waistband where you sewed earlier, and you're going to put that inside the band. Work it in there. Now you just gather it onto the safety pin. Keep going. And then just pull it on there. You want to get just enough on here so that's about an inch away from the edge of the elastic. Then what you're going to do is take a pin or a safety pin. I have a safety pin available, so that's what I'm going to use, and pin it in place. This will keep the elastic from slipping in because you're going to be sewing this to the other end when you're done. And then you just go through all of it. Gather it up. And bunch it all onto your waistband. And you do that till you're finished with the whole length. Okay, once it's all on there, this one is extremely poofy. I'll find it. I'm going to grab the end that you pinned in place and the end that you pulled through. And you're going to connect them. You want to make sure that your flower petals are on the outside and that the tulle layer without the petals is on the inside. So what I do, take the safety pin that I used to pull the elastic through off, take this safety pin off, I overlap the two, I'm just going to use my safety pin since I still don't have a pin around me. And I'm going to pin these two together. I'm going to leave the safety pin open though so I can easily just pull it out when I get to that point with the sewing. So now you have it pinned together. Almost done. What you're going to do is set your machine to a zigzag stitch. I have a simple brother. You want to take your tutu Shove everything out of the way. Just get the elastic up onto your sewing area. Bit of a hassle, as you can tell. So push it all down, get the needle where you want it, lower your needle in. Take the pin out. I'm going to backstitch a few times. So I stitched the entire width of the elastic forward, then I backstitch the entire width and do it again. I do it about 4 times back and forth to really reinforce this. So you're going to trim your threads, and then this flap right here you're also going to trim down. You take the tutu, start sliding the tool around the waistband to cover up this seam that you just made with the elastic. Pull it right over it. You want to evenly distribute the tool around the waistband. I like to fluff out all my petals, grab and pull, work from the bottom, try to make sure they're all facing down, none of them are flipped up, stuck underneath each other. This purple one is flipped under, and I'm all flipped out. And this is pretty tedious. Once you're done, you have a pretty tutu. And I am working in an extremely small space. But this is the waistband, it's so tiny. And there's my rainbow tutu.